the start recording button now because I'm not gonna post that when we do it. So let me get out of the Money School 101, and now I want to go to Money School 201. What I came up with tonight is that I'm going to assume that you've gotten out of debt, or you've got a game plan. It's heading in a better direction. Do you want to wait for the future to start saving and building wealth? It's not about retirement, guys and girls. It's about building wealth. It's about sound financial principles. Going down through there, where do you put the money? You've started paying down the debt, and now what should you do? I'm going to talk tonight about compounded growth. I'm going to talk about your 401ks, and I'm going to talk about IRAs and deferred accounts. I'm going to talk about some tax-free alternatives, and we'll talk about that. You know, compounded growth is a beautiful thing, as we said before. Albert Einstein calls it the eighth wonder of the financial world. Those who understand it earn it, those who don't pay it. Well, there's three components in building wealth. You have to have some money. When you're younger, you don't have as much as you might when you're older, but while you're older, you don't have as much time. So the equation is balanced out. The sooner you start, you can start with less money and over time have a lot more money than a person that waited till age 50 or 55. So you need some money to start building wealth. You need to select an account or two to start putting money into, and you need some time. Again, time's the great equalizer. If you don't anticipate you'll make a lot of money, then you need to get started as early as possible. Even if you do plan, hope to dream that you'll be a millionaire, multimillionaire, and make a lot of money throughout your life, start saving now. Money and interest rate and time are the things that build up the total value of the assets that you'll have, your true net worth. The other thing I would tell you right now, do you know your net worth? What is your true net worth? If you added up all your assets, 401ks, IRAs, your real estate, your money in your savings account, your checking account, if you added up all your assets, subtracted out your liabilities, do you have a positive net worth or a negative net worth? You need to have that talk with yourself and to see where you're at, and you need to look at that ongoing on a monthly basis. And so we'll talk about that and some more things. At what rate should you save? Some people say, well, fund your 401k up to the employer match. Well, that's good. It's been reported in recent studies that Americans will save about 6% on average. That's how much they save out of every paycheck going forward. Some save less, some save more. Some don't save any at all and live off the credit cards and actually have a negative savings rate. But they say 6% is the average. Some say you should save at least 10. I go with 15. Start taking away the first 15% of every dollar you make and put it into, earmark it, bank on it, and have it going into something, your 401k or into several different accounts. You got to pay yourself first. If you wait and you have to write a check, it's great if you have accounts set up where, like the 401k, it's deducted out of your paycheck before you touch it, so you don't have to make a decision, so it happens automatically. So you have to pay yourself first. Once you do that, you learn to live off the next 85%. And if you have to go get a part-time job or whatever to supplement, hey, it's just what wealthy people do. It's people that want to build wealth. I also go on to tell people, I found very few wealthy people that only work 40 hours a week. Most wealthy people are the people that have become successful, that run businesses, that run departments of businesses, or go out and you know, are in sales or even start their own business. Most of them work 40 to 50 hours, even more than that, 60 or even more than that. Is you go, well, Steve, I don't want to work that much. Well, then settle for what you've got. So work more, save and pay yourself first. 15% should be the guideline, and pay yourself first. Now, if you're a Christian like I am, you tithe first, you give that money, and then I'm talking about the rest of it after the tithe. Take care of your obligation there to your church and to what you do there. But I'm talking about after you've done that. And anyway, 15%. Here's an example. If you make $50,000 a year, 15% of that is about $7,500 a year. That's going to leave you with $35,000. You go, well, I can't live off of that. Well, you need to get some more income. Because you're either going to struggle now or have a good life now and struggle later. I want to build wealth. Do you want to build wealth? If you save less, it's going to be harder for you. If you get a pay raise, you were making $50,000 a year, you were putting away $7,500. If you get a pay raise, up the percentage amount. A lot of people don't do that. So you can see if you get a pay raise of $5,000, then your amount that you're pushing away for the future is now $8,250 per year. And again, if you get a promotion or something, you go up to $75,000, and 15% of that is $11,250 a year. Pay yourself. Give your retirement account a pay raise. You get a pay raise, give one to your retirement account as well. Principle, start today. I don't care how much money you've got to put away, start today. If you can't start and do 15% right now, start with what you've got. If you got 50 cents a week, $50 a month, $100, you start where you're at. And you increase it up to the 15% as soon as possible. If you're following Money School 101 and getting the debt paid down, then it'll come up as the credit cards melt away. You pay off Visa, there's $200 more a month. You push some of that maybe in your pocket or put it all away for the future. You'd be surprised if you just get rid of the debt. If you quit paying Visa and MasterCard and the car loans and get rid of the student loans, and you do it rapidly, you'll have more money to push over here, and it won't be painful for you. It's only painful when you got too much debt and not enough income going on, and it kind of compounds in pain. Pay yourself first. Remember, there's little simple principles right there. Excuse me. Start where you're at. Get up to 15% as soon as you can, and then pay yourself first. It's always, because I can't say it enough, if you have to think about writing a check to fund your retirement account, it will be the last thing that you fund. 401ks and IRAs, the advantages of 401ks, TSPs, IRAs, the advantages, it lowers your adjusted gross income. Back to my example with somebody making 50 grand a year. They put $5,000 into their 401k. This year they're only going to pay tax on $45,000. So most people see that as an advantage. The employer match. In a 401k, you have an employer match. So if they're matching you, you got to take them up on that money. By putting money into a 401k, TSP, and those types of accounts, you not only earn interest on your money, you earn interest on the taxes that you wouldn't have paid because you're deferring the taxes to a later date. You earn interest on the employer match and earn interest on your interest, the interest that's already in the account. The disadvantages, hey, they could lose money if they're tied to the stock market. In the future, you may end up in a higher tax bracket. There's penalties if you take the money out prior to age 59 and a half. And if you don't take the money out after 70 and a half, there's penalties. So there's early withdrawal penalties before 59 and a half, and there's late penalties if you don't take the money out after age 70 and a half. The employer match. Somebody asked me this today. Steve, what about the employer match? The rule of thumb in general over time has been to fund your 401k at least up to the match of the employer. So if your employer is matching you 5%, take it. It's free money. Now, I will tell you, a couple was in here the other day, and he was just started a new job, and the 401k was just opening up, and now it was available to him. And he goes, should I take and fund money into the 401k? I go, well, it's a personal decision. Normally, you want to take the employer match. However, what does it matter if the employer matches 5% and the stock market goes down 25 or 50%? It's not a reason not to save. I'm just saying it may discourage you if that happens again. The stock market is at an all-time high. What happens? Just your luck. You now jump in and you're feeling confident. The employer's match it. You're putting money into it and it's looking good. And 2 months, 6 months, a year down the road, the stock market takes a hit. And all of a sudden your $10,000 becomes $5,000. What did an employer match mean? But in normal times, take the free money. Here's an example. If you make 50%, $50,000, and your employer matches the first 5%, I don't know what they're going to match. If you're going to put in $2,500, I don't know how much they'll match. But take them up on the free money. Every employer is different. I've had some that are very generous. I have some that's not. But that employer match can build up and be a lot over time. In this example, I don't know if the employer match will be this generous, but let's say it is. You're putting in $2,500 and they're matching you up to that first whatever bit. So over 20 years period of time, you're 5,000 at 7%, or your money, the employer match, that adds up to, you know, at 7%, $412,000. If you didn't have the employer match, it'd be less than that. So it's free money. Take them up on the free money. You'll pay taxes on it when you take the money out. It's a bonus. It's a motivator from the employer to keep you there. Again, some employers don't offer any bonuses. Some are more generous. A lot are in the middle. It changes. When the economy gets bad, a lot of them drop it down, do away with it, phase it out. I've even seen 401k plans that were generous in the past, and now the employers are closing them up and not offering them anymore. So it depends, but there is power in earning interest on that employer match and the unpaid taxes. Let's talk about some alternatives. 401ks, maybe you funded yours up into your employer match. Where else should you put money? Well, what if your employer's only matching you 5%? What do you do with the other 10%? Perhaps you look at something like a tax-free account. Remember, the 401ks and IRAs are going to benefit you now by lowering your adjusted gross income, but that doesn't mean you'll be in a lower tax bracket in the future. So you might want to be tax diversified a little bit. You might want to build a tax-free alternative to balance the scales out a little bit. So a Roth IRA, you're going to fund these things with after-tax dollars, so you don't get any tax benefit today, but you'll benefit in the future by a zero tax rate. I will tell you that I'm going to be talking more and more about a zero income tax rate in retirement. It would be nice if, think about it today, here's the advantages of a zero tax rate. Think of how much different your life would be today if your paycheck, the money coming into you, you didn't have to pay any taxes. All that money was federal and state income tax free. How much different would your life be now if you didn't have to give FICA and all them other guys some money? Well, that's what we're trying to build in retirement. Are you want the government more involved in your retirement? And it's an uncertain thing. So I want to build a tax-free retirement. So that's why I like things like the Roth IRAs and or the life insurance that I'm going to talk about here in a minute. Roth IRAs are, you know, if you're under 50 years old, you can put up to $5,500 a year. If you're over $5,500, 50 years old, you can put $6,500. Advantages, the money comes out in the future, income tax free. The disadvantages on the right, you're not going to lower your tax bill right now like you would in a 401k. So you have to think that out. Am I getting in a really high income tax bracket now? Do I need to lower my tax bill now? But if I do that, might I end up in a higher tax bracket in the future? So you have to think about that one. And the problem is that you can't predict, you can't project, you don't have a crystal ball, so you have no way of knowing in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years what tax brackets you'll be in. But if you've ever been to one of my seminars, my workshops, or read in my books, or whatever it might be, what is the likelihood with $17.6 trillion in federal debt? What is the likelihood with over $100 trillion in unfunded liabilities? That means Social Security and Medicare and pensions and all that. What is the likelihood that you, average American, Joe or Jane, are going to be in a lower tax bracket in the future? Well, I personally believe the odds are very low. I wish that wasn't going to be the case, but I know it's probably going to be true because the numbers just don't add up. What are the Roth IRAs, a tax-free alternative? What are some other products that you can put your money into? I'm not going to focus on these screens a whole lot. I've got some other slides I want to pull up and show you. But people right now, I will tell you, are putting, they've always, for decades, have been putting money into cash value life insurance. But you have three choices. You have whole life, you have variable life, and you've got a hybrid called index life. Whole life is kind of like a CD. It's the CD of cash value policies. In that, you've got a guaranteed growth rate, but you have some expenses. You have some fees to go in there. You don't have as much control of the money. You don't have as much liquidity in the early years. Whole life is a predictable rate of return, 4 or 5%. Variable life was created in the 1980s. Has stocks, bonds, mutual funds, can make money, but can lose money. Good times, fantastic. Bad times, not so much. Index kind of takes the best of both worlds. It takes the can't lose money out of the whole life and some of the market potential, upside potential from the variable life, and puts it into into one product. So I'll try to talk to you about that. The disadvantages of all life insurance: you got cost of insurance, you got some sales charges and all those kinds of things. So I hit on some of that right there. And I go through variable life a little bit, and you can lose money. Remember 2008. And these hybrid products that are out right now, becoming very popular, new and improved products out there all the time. I'm going to click over and I want to pull up some information. I want to go through your qualified plans. Almost everybody in America will build and have a 401k, an IRA, and some type of an account like that. So I want to go through some of those things right now and just play with some numbers. You have 401ks, Keogh plans. The most popular plans for these types of qualified plans are 401ks and IRAs. 403bs are popular if you're in an institution like a teacher or a hospital, a nonprofit organization. You have 457 plans. Thrift savings plans are set up with the federal government, but they all do the same thing basically. You put money into them now, it lowers your tax bill now. You earn interest on the unpaid taxes, but in the future, you're going to pay taxes. In those accounts, you defer the tax rates to a later date. You don't know what tax bracket you'll be in the future and or what deductions you'll have in the future. So in retirement, these are two uncertain things that I don't like. You know, if somebody comes in and we have a zero tax rate and they need 50 grand a year and they've got sufficient funds in the right account to pull out 50 grand, but in a 401k, how much will we have to take out to net 50 grand, 60 grand, 70 grand, 80 grand, 100 grand? We don't know because we don't know what tax rates will be in the future. But I want to show you a couple of other things. In this slide right here, I'm showing putting in $10,000 into an account. We're in a 30% tax bracket. You may be in a lower, you may be a little bit higher, but let's call it 30%, kind of high. And you're funding this account for 16 more years, and we're growing at 7%. In this example right here, let me grab my little arrow. I want to point out a couple things to you. Our account balance at that time will be $298,000. Now, we've contributed money to the account or whatever, but here's the problem. The account value at that time might have $298,000, and you assume all that money is yours. Well, that's not true, because Uncle Sam wants a part of that. You owe, if you were to cash that thing in all at one time, Uncle Sam, if you're in a 30% tax bracket, would want $89,000 in taxes. Well, so my point is, you really don't have $298,000. You got just over $200,000 in your account. You lowered your adjusted gross. You deferred taxes from that earlier stage. Remember, I said if you put in $50,000, you made $50,000, and you put in $5,000, you only pay tax on $45,000. That deferral, that $5,000 a year, that's what you deferred right there. You kicked the can down the road. You didn't pay it then. I don't want to pay you right now, Uncle Sam. I will gladly pay you later. I'll pay you in the future. Well, you deferred 48, but here's the thing. Your money not only compounded in interest, but the taxes compounded in interest too, meaning you owe more because the account's bigger. But here's the other downside. So you're kicking the can down the road, but here's the other problem. What happens in the future if you end up in a higher tax bracket? Remember that $89,000 down there for me. What happens if you end up in a 40% tax bracket? And you go, well, that can't happen. Really? Well, we're going to see in the future if that's the truth or not. Let me go back and come back and anyway take this up to 40%. Now we've jumped up to $119,000 that we owe the IRS. It keeps getting worse if the tax brackets go. What happens if you're in a lower tax bracket? Well, that might be true, but you tell me how it's going to be. Wealthy people pay people all the time, tax attorneys, CPAs, accountants, all kinds of people to keep them from paying taxes, both now and into the future. Average people that end up with meager and average savings never change their tax strategy. They always focus in on what it was today. My point is, if you're listening to a coworker, somebody right around you, excuse me again, you may end up in not a great situation tax-wise in the future. If tax rates go down, the 401ks are good. If tax rates go up, what happens if that tax rate keeps on climbing? I mean, who knows what it might be in the future? 50%. You say it can never be. The highest tax bracket in our country's history is 94%. Here's one other option I want to show you guys, and we're going to start wrapping things up. Start saving. Take the employer match. Start saving too soon. Start with what you've got. Ramp it up. Pay yourself first. All those things come into play. I'm going to do one last thing. Hopefully it'll pull up. Give me 1 second. You know, we talk about life insurance as a vehicle to put money away for the future. Why? Because I'm not limited like in the Roth IRA to $5,000 or $6,000. You can put as much money, as little or as much money as you want to. In these policies, though, here's the problem. The insurance company will set the minimum amount. The IRS will set the maximum amount. The problem in these funding these life insurance is most people think of it as an expense, so they try to put the least amount of money into it. What you need to take a look at is that we need to maximize and use this as an alternative to 401ks and IRAs. Why? Because in the future, here are the benefits on the life insurance. We have tax-deferred growth, but we're going to have tax-free growth. We're going to have tax-free distributions of that money. We offer a competitive rate of return. We can take really high contributions. We can add extra money to it. We're not capped off because the IRS says we're capped off. We have collateral opportunities. What that means, if I need to go buy a house and I've got $100,000 in my life insurance policy and I need 50 grand really quick, I don't have to take the 50 grand out of my life insurance. I can have the bank put a lien on my cash value life insurance, borrow from them at 3 or 4%, and let my money sit in my life contract, earning the 8.5 to 9% that it's been averaging. Safe harbor, it's creditor proof is what that means by that one. No loss provisions. Guaranteed loan option. The way you get your money out of these cash value life insurance policies is through borrowing against it. And I'll show you that at another point in time. You can take money out to, buy things throughout life, cars, pay yourself back with interest. Liquidity in your 401k, if you're under 59.5, you don't have liquidity in that. I like having control over my money. And deductible contributions. There's all kinds of things to do it. Guys, I try to keep this thing at 30 minutes, and that's where we're at right now. Let me tell you a couple things. Let me pull up this one to see if it's got our phone number and stuff on there. I go down to the last slide on this one. If you want to get a game plan of action, you need to call us. And I don't have the phone number right here. I should have pulled that up, but I don't. We're right at 30 minutes. I recorded this thing. We're going to get it out. You'd be surprised, and some of you going, hey, this is really amateur type stuff, but you would be shocked at how many people, both rich and poor, young and old, getting started, that don't even know what I'm talking about on these two money schools. Last month where I was talking about mortgages and debt, and then this one I'm talking about putting money away and why and how much and all that. You'd be shocked that people that don't even know the basics right here. So when are you going to get started? Are you going to get started today, or are you going to be like everyone else and put it off for another day? Guys, where we're going to record this, the phone number here is 877-313-4080. You got the call. You got the email. You probably got our number somewhere. If you've not been to Cash Flow Money Wave and taken a look at the Wealth Accelerator, you're going to kick yourself in the future. We're rolling out a national marketing plan because that thing is really picking up steam. CashFlowMoneyWave.com. Again, the couple in today paid off. They owed some on their car loan, about $9,500. That was gone quick. What is your excuse? You're going to put it off for another day, another year, another whatever. Compounded growth. I'm going to go into that in more detail in the future ones. I showed that same couple today by waiting 2 years. waiting 2 years to get started funding something that it was going to cost them, and if we put in, I forget, it was about $7,000 a year in somebody in their 30s. They waited 2 years till we was 35 instead of starting at 33. In retirement, it would be about, I think it was about $13,000 less per year coming out in the future. So getting started now times 20 years or 30 years of retirement is going to be $250,000 in lost opportunity. Guys, get started where you're at. I'm going to end the call right now, 30 minutes, a little bit over. Guys, hopefully you got a little bit out of this. Watch it again, but give us a call. We can help you where you're at and improve your life now, but make sure and share this message with everybody out there. If we make it available to you, share it with your friends and neighbors and coworkers, your adult children, your parents, because America is messed up financially, and I'm on a mission to get you out of debt and get you on the right path and make your life better now and make sure retirement is a slam dunk instead of a guessing game. Guys, we appreciate your time. Hopefully you got something out of it. We'll catch